You've been writing extensively on this Dravidian phenomenon, Dravidianism versus the wild Aryans. Where does it begin, actually?
Where does Dravidianism begin?
Yes.
It begins with Christian missionaries, originally. It begins in what is today known as Tamil Nadu proper, with missionary incursions by, most notably, first by a man named a missionary, Catholic missionary known as Roberto D. Nobili, who infamously called himself as the Roman Brahmin. So, जैसे हम यज्ञोपवीत पहनते हैं ना, so he used to tie a cross to a thread. I won't call it yajnopavit, and pretend that he was also a Brahmin who simply followed a different god. So this was part of the early missionary strategy across India, where the idea was to convert the Brahmin society first. Because like Islamists who realized that it was the Brahmin community which provided the spiritual guidance for the rest of the Hindu society and who acted as the religious, spiritual and cultural and social custodians of the overall Hindu society. So if you cut them off, the Islamists did it, in their patented fashion, chopping off their heads and, weighing the yagnopavit by the kilogram. Mounds. So they did it, the time-honored way. But these fellows, they adopt a multi-pronged, long-term civilizational strategy, which will outlast an individual missionary or his denomination within the larger Christian family. So that was part of D. Nobili's.
There are no women leaders in Catholics.
Yeah, there are no. Yeah. So there is a famous joke.
So much for feminism.
There is a famous joke that who was that? Bertrand Russell. He has written in one of his essays. It's a wonderful collection. So he says, somebody was asked, Father, a nun is asked, Sister, why do all nuns take bath with their clothes on? So she crosses herself, closes her eyes, looks up and says, the good Lord sees all.
So, nuns are officially married to Jesus.
So there you go. Anyway, so that was part of...
they vilify Krishna's very, very spiritual story.
Story of the Gopikas.
The Gopikas and of the 16,000
wives. Yeah.
That they keep vilifying.
Correct.
But otherwise, billions of nuns.
Billions, all nuns, yeah. The moment you adopt the order of nunnery, then Jesus gets one more wife.
Yeah, they take official vow.
No, they are sisters, but then, people like D. Nobili are fathers. You don't know how you can describe this familial relationship with God and His Son.
And
the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost. Okay.
So anyway, all is fair in the great Lord's kingdom and His family.
Right.
So nobody adopted that strategy.
In any case, somebody is going to take the burden of the sin.
Absolutely.
Somebody
It's always somebody else. It's always somebody else.
You're not responsible for your own actions.
Yes.
Great family.
So that's what he tried, nobly. But then the Hindu society, although we had been, politically warring and, we had pretty much lost political control over large parts of India. Nobili came sometime around the 16th and 17th centuries. And he focused his efforts in the Tirunelveli, Madurai, that region. So he tried that. But the resilience and the rootedness of the Hindu society was so strong that despite his best efforts, and remember, they do this over several lifetimes. So you are a missionary and nobody was a ordained priest and father, that kind of a guy. So in spite of that, he found, to his great annoyance and anger, that these people do not recognize Jesus as the Son of a God and that, they don't recognize a Christian God as a God at all. So then within a few decades, he cast off his, fake Yagnopavit and began to target the so-called lower caste of Hindu society back then. So he seeded this whole project of conversion. And a century after that, or 2 centuries, 1.5, 2 centuries after him, he was followed by another Italian missionary known as Besci. Now, it was this Besci who, along with his grassroots missionary works, he targeted studying the Tamil language and linguistics and grammar. And he left behind one of the first European efforts at studying Tamil language and literature and linguistics. It's after that, the next epoch comes with another missionary, hardcore missionary named Bishop Robert Caldwell. Caldwell Appa. So he is still today revered as Appa in the Dravidian ideology. He is the founding father of the Dravidian movement. But he did not start it as a political movement. He, obviously, as a missionary, his focus was to convert Hindus. It didn't matter which society. And even before in the later years, what Caldwell did was he took forward Besci's work of studying Tamil language and linguistics and grammar. But before that, he was a grassroots missionary worker when he came to India. So like all grassroots missionary workers, he went around touring the country trying to understand the local customs, manners and lifestyles of different groups and society communities within the larger Sanatana society in Tamil Nadu. And his focus was also in Tirunelveli. There, his first target group for conversion was a group known as Shanars. Today they are known as Nadars. So they were originally hailed from the toddy tapping profession. But one thing about the Shanars were, irrespective of where they were in the larger Hindu social hierarchy and the whole what is known as a caste system, they were forward-looking in the sense that, we have to, when we develop ourselves economically, we will automatically get into the elite circles of society. So they were not bothered, they never felt inferior that we belong to the toddy tapping caste or whatever. So this man, Caldwell, he studied that community and wrote a book called The Shanars of Tirunelveli. Immediately, it met with a furious backlash from the Shanar community who had been exposed to some kind of English education, who had undergone the British university kind of system. They hit back with a huge fury. They burnt his book publicly. Lot of rioting and arson followed, and Caldwell had to withdraw the book.
Remarkable.
Okay.
When did he start his
Lemurian
theory?
I will tell you. So once he withdrew the book, he figured out that this is not quite the right approach to get these guys to the Christian fold. That is when he rediscovered Besci's work on Tamil grammar and language and linguistics. And what he did was that if you cut the tree at the roots, then the job will become much easier. So then, working for about 10 or 15 years, he authored a book, a treatise known as a comparative grammar of the Dravidian languages. So you see the title itself, Dravidian languages. Until that time, in our linguistic, wherever, we had a very rich give and take of regional, what is known as regional literature from times immemorial, or from the time of Prakrit, Sanskrit, all these times. There were translations, and this interchange was happening across India. Nowhere in our literary lore do we call this thing as something called Dravidian linguistics. You will not find an equivalent in any Indian language to something called comparative grammar of Dravidian linguistics in any Indian language before this man gave it. So that basically posited that Tamil was a pure language which was defiled by the alien, Aryan, Brahmin colonizers from North India who came, conquered, destroyed and inflicted their hegemony on a supposedly pre-existing, pristine, pure, independent Dravidian culture, language and society.
Borrowing from the Aryan invasion theory, which had become...
Exactly, which was kind of gaining steam at that time.
Max Miller had already devised
it. So this is the origin. And once this did not, get a lot of currency initially. But what it did was that it instilled great pride. What is known as a regionalism, what is today known as regional linguistic chauvinism. It did that. It seeded that. And Caldwell published his book in 1856. From 1856 to the founding of the Justice Party in 1916, if I'm not mistaken, the whole narrative progressed at breakneck speed.